It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Different background for you, Alan. Mobile, Alabama, Senior Bowl. Not going to be what we talked about much on today's show, if at all. But how are we doing down there?
What do you mean we're not going to talk about the Senior Bowl? That's all I came here to do. We're not talking about the Senior Bowl. I'm out.
Okay. Well, the Steelers decided to hire an offensive coordinator while you were at the Senior Bowl. And
literally
if you're watching,
in the middle of practice.
Yeah, so I want to ask, how does that process, at least from your point of view, your opinion, go down? Like with Mike Tomlin, Andy Weidel's there as well. Khan is there as well, correct? So
right, so we saw Omar and Mike at the beginning of practice on the field. And then Omar wasn't around, but that's not unusual. Omar is not the kind of guy that's going to stand there and watch every drill from 2 feet away. He'll go up to the luxury box, talk to other GMs, whatever. Mm-hmm. Omar, and then Mike was missing. He wasn't watching any one-on-ones during the first section. I'm like,
okay,
what's going on? And then my phone goes off, and I'm like, oh, that's what's going on. Howard Arthur Smith.
There we go.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, you said that was the one guy you thought okay, they could hire tomorrow. Literally, you said yesterday this would be the one guy they could hire tomorrow, and it makes sense. Well, they decided to hire him tomorrow, which is today. An insult, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, in solidarity with Arthur Smith, I have shaved to just a mustache. Only facial hair I got right now is a mustache. This is not how I typically look, but for Arthur Smith becoming the new OC, the Steelers, I felt like it was appropriate. This won't last. How fast this can grow back, we will see, but this is the only amount of time you'll see me with a mustache until this grows back. Anyways,
I'm not. Don't ask. What's the Nick Saban? Quit asking because I'm not gonna. There's no chance. No chance. Not.
Well, see, I feel like okay. I
do think it looks good on art though. I think it looks weird without it.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree. Yeah. So he shaved it at one point last year, and I was like, no, bring it back. So I'm hoping his Steelers tenure, we do see.
This is the city of Ditka, Wanstedt, and Cower. You can't be a coach that can grow a mustache in Pittsburgh and just not.
Also, I feel like the way, the face that I'm about to make is the face that he should always have.
Yeah, that's the face he always has. Dude, no, I swear to God, if I'm looking for pictures of him, because we only had 2, and then we've got to write a bunch of stories about him. It's the same face in every picture. I'm trying to get some variety of nope, there's that face in every single one. That's just the way it looks.
There is the one maybe you could get a grab from the video where he's very expressive, where he throws his hands up because of the throw that Desmond Ridder made. Yeah.
I got him on a little mid jog, running off the field at halftime or something. Yeah. One of them. It's good.
But other than the great facial expressions and a great mustache, what is Arthur Smith bringing to Pittsburgh? And we've talked about the fit. Obviously, should they hire him? Well, now they're going to hire him. So how does this look for the Steelers offense going forward? Do you think that this raises the chances of anything in the quarterback room? What are we expecting from this offense under Arthur Smith?
Well, I don't know if Art Rooney knew this was happening when he talked to us yesterday, but if he didn't, he did a very good job of explaining the hire anyway. Everything that he said yesterday when he was talking about an offensive coordinator was, here's why we're going to hire Arthur Smith. And then he did. It was everything that Art Rooney talked about yesterday was boxes that Arthur Smith checked. And also, we've had a bunch of sidebars already, but I feel like I need this one.
Okay.
What are the odds of an organization in 2024 having 2 of its, 6 highest profile employees be named Arthur? How many Arts are out there?
Yeah,
how do the Steelers have 2 of them? It is not that common of a name.
Yeah, that's true.
Arthur Motes works for the Steelers too. So there's 3 Arthurs.
Yeah,
collecting Steelers paycheck. I don't know if collecting a Steelers paycheck is the correct way to characterize Art Rooney's relationship with the franchise. Nonetheless,
yeah,
it's
what about
a strange accumulation of arts. What's that?
Artie Burns just literally Artie?
I don't know. Art Millette was Arthur too. And he was just very recently here. They have a thing for arts, apparently. And also the Rooney family just names everybody either Art or Dan, I think. As far as like I can go back through their history, it's just, oh, we had a baby, it's a boy, flip the coin, Art or Dan. Like just go with it. I don't know. Hey, family traditions are cool. I'm down with it. But a lot of arts going on. I think Arthur Smith is going to have to be Arthur or Artie. He can't be Art in the context of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's not going to work.
Absolutely. I agree. Alan, that was a sidebar, and trying to get us back on track here, I do want to ask, like, does his scheme need tweaked, bringing it to Pittsburgh? Does it fit the personnel that's already here?
Well, let's talk about the scheme, right? And why it makes sense. So if you look at the pieces that if the way you approach solving this problem was to first look at the pieces the Steelers currently have, okay? And then maybe look at the hopes and dreams of the talent acquisition group, guys like Andy Weidel and Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin in that part of his job, in terms of what they're looking to try to get this offseason, in which Art Rooney basically said they want to replicate last offseason, right? That's what he said yesterday. Like, we want to do that again. So much of what they did last offseason was set up to make this team be good at running the football. And then it wasn't anyway. At first, it did become good at it eventually. But like, if they have another offseason where they spend most of their money and most of their high draft picks on guys that help the running game, like, they will have a lot of talent in offensive, running the ball. And so if you look at the team that they have and that are likely to have in the very near future, and the way you approach this problem was, who will be good with that kind of team? Who will be good with mediocre quarterback play, a very strong offensive line? And like, people are talking about Arthur Smith's tenure as Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator, like, oh, well, he had Derrick Henry in his prime. The Steelers have basically the closest thing to Derrick Henry in his prime in the NFL right now, in Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. Like, they name a team with a better running back situation. Like, that's perfect. Like, they have the pieces for this offense to work. Would you rather have Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown, and basically no one else of note, or Kenny Pickett, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, Pat Freiermuth, Deontay Johnson, and George Pickens? Like, it's better personnel than he had when he had Derrick Henry. It's a good fit for what he wants to do on offense. Now, I think you can make an argument that that's the wrong way to approach that problem. I think you can make an argument that you should say, what's the rest of the league doing that's having more success than what we're doing, and why don't we do some of those things, right? I mean, and not a lot of teams. There are some, like, look, I don't really think that the Lions approach is that different than Arthur Smith's. I think they're pretty similar, and they were in the NFC Championship game. But most of the teams that we're seeing have a lot of success in the NFL this year in terms of winning a lot of football games don't really have that kind of approach. And so I think there's different ways to solve the problem. This one involves trying to win with the pieces they have, trying to win with Kenny Pickett as your quarterback, basically, or some veteran that Kenny Pickett can't beat out instead, right? I mean, that's what this offense is trying to solve, and it's been proven to be okay at that. Now, it wasn't in Atlanta. So a key thing for the Steelers will be identifying what was missing from this formula in Atlanta that was there in Tennessee that allowed them to have that success. And like, I don't think Bijan Robinson is as good as Derrick Henry, but he's not bad either. And so I don't think Marcus Mariota is as good as Ryan Tannehill, but he's not that much worse. So like, where did things fall apart in Atlanta? That's gonna be a key thing. Like, is it just that he had too much on his plate as offensive coordinator and head coach? He wasn't experienced enough at either to be able to do that job. If that's the answer, then great. Oh, well, well, you go back to being an offensive coordinator, you go back to being a very good one, and we have an answer. Did the leagues figure some stuff out about Arthur Smith? Does that not work with that group of offensive linemen in Atlanta? And will it work with the group of offensive linemen in Pittsburgh? I don't know. I think there's unanswered questions, and that's why this hire, I think, is like as strange I saw some people call it safe on Twitter. I don't really think it's safe. I think it's a bit of a gamble And not only that, it's a bit of a low upside gamble, right? Because you're not taking this big swing on like finding the next Kyle Shanahan, right? Like we're pretty sure he's not that. But also, like there's a possibility that the results are the same as what they were in Atlanta the last 2 years, which was not very good. And so I think when I try to characterize this hire, I would say it has potential to be good, but it's not great. Like that's kind of what I'm feeling right now.
I think, yeah, that's also the bucket that I'm in. And I think that the reason for my concern is I want to see the rest of the coaching staff filled out first. I think that's my thing is like, I feel like a hire like this at OC makes who you bring in, a quarterback coach, pass game coordinator, whatever, that much more important. You know, if you went a different route and got a guy that was more about the development of Kenny Pickett, or let's say past Kenny Pickett, say you realize Kenny Pickett isn't the guy and you're still drafting another young quarterback, I would think that you would want an OC that has some type of experience there, a track record of developing young quarterbacks. Arthur Smith still isn't that. They still don't have that guy on the staff. So to me, I'm okay with the hire of Arthur Smith, assuming that they fill out the rest of the staff in the right way. Now, do we trust them to do that? That I think that brings that into question.
I think the quarterback coach hire now becomes extremely critical. I think it's an important part of this process now is that for all the good points of Arthur Smith, he does not have quarterback development chops at all. And in fact, things went very poor in terms of development of Desmond Ridder in Atlanta under Smith. And so where does that come from? Well, it's got to come from the quarterbacks coach. Who's that going to be? Gerard Johnson, he is a quarterbacks coach already. They're probably not going to let him leave for a lateral move. Thomas Brown, the other guy they interviewed, not a quarterback guy. Is Cliff Kingsbury going to come be quarterbacks coach? I kind of doubt it. God, if he is, great. Then I think we're in heaven, right? I mean, I think it's like I think there is and I'm not going to like get into all the names right now, but like there is a quarterbacks coach out there that makes this hire look really good, right? Like that's out there, there's also like an uninspired quarterbacks coach hire that really leaves this with even more question marks than I have right now. And if they can't develop Kenny Pickett, will this team win, 10 games with a Ryan Tannehill or Jacoby Brissett as quarterback? Probably, but like, what's the point almost? Like, what are you working towards at that point?
The same situation as we had this season. I mean, I feel like it would just be running the same script back, which again, 10 wins, getting to the first round of the playoffs, probably losing to one of these alien quarterbacks you just can't keep up with. But yeah, I mean, I wonder the same thing. There was one name that I dropped. I think it was on here, and I was actually surprised to see he got an OC interview somewhere. Was Jake Peets, who's with the Rams right now? Because I was looking at like, okay, look below Zach Robinson. Say we miss out on him. Who's another guy that we can bring in from that tree to the staff? Not as the OC, but in some capacity. I wonder if maybe there would be some interest there for him as the quarterback coach.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly. That's certainly a possibility.
What's his role with the Rams? I mean, it's like offensive analyst
like
or something?
Yeah, pass game specialist or something like that.
Okay, gotcha. I was just thinking of how is it a promotion here on this staff? Like, what role do you give him exactly to make it a promotion?
Coach. I mean, that would be a promotion. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was making sure of.
Yeah.
The one thing that I will say is it in your mind at all? Is it even a possibility that they say, okay, this OC hire doesn't interfere in the way that we thought that it might? Mike Sullivan is back.
I just can't imagine bringing the failed results of Kenny Pickett and Mike Sullivan back together. They're kind of like it's sunk cost, but like I understand the reasoning. Hey, we used the first round pick on this guy. He played 1.5 games without Matt Canada's offensive coordinator. We want to see what it looks like. I understand the reasoning for bringing Kenny Pickett back. If you're going to bring him back, I don't know how you bring him back with the same coach and expect different results. Like I don't see it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the scheme was not good, but Kenny Pickett was not good within the scheme either. We saw that when we saw what Mason Rudolph looked like in the scheme, which was better, right? I mean, so It's not like it was just the scheme that was holding Kenny Pickett back. There needs to be some more significant development than we saw last year. I can't see how under any circumstances Mike Sullivan can be back.
Also, we need people to clip that because, again, the comments were a little bit, wild yesterday with the way that they think that we talked about Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph. You just said Mason Rudolph played better in his time in the same system. So I want people to be aware that was said on here.
Appreciate you looking out for me. Like that. The couple of points that I want to make here that are sort of asides, but I think important. I really, really like the idea of a guy who was a former head coach being on the staff. I think that is something that, like, we've talked about how, Mike Tomlin and the challenges problem and just in general, like, it felt like there were some things that his plate was a little bit overloaded with these last couple of years. I think having someone that's been a head coach could be a good thing for Mike Tomlin on his staff, and that having someone with that experience could make Mike Tomlin better. I'm intrigued by that idea. And the other one is, we had a whole episode where we talked about this twin OC quarterback idea, right? Where, the Gardner Minshew example from Indianapolis, where you let the backup be a part of the scheme, right? The backup already knows the scheme so that the OC can spend all his time with the quarterback. Well, I mean, Mariota and Tannehill, even Blaine Gabbert, there's a couple of them out there from Smith's tree that could be real interesting. I mean, I think Ryan Tannehill now, like, I said it when when Arthur Smith's name popped up that that could be a hire. And now I think we have to talk about Ryan Tannehill as that could really happen as a guy that they could sign as their 1B quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually got a question about that. Like, does this? The question was, does this increase the chances of Ryan Tannehill becoming a Steeler? It certainly doesn't decrease them, but it absolutely
increases
in my mind increases them, because that's that was on the table regardless of who the OC was going to be. There's going to be a backup added in some capacity. Now, again, Mason Rudolph being a free agent put this on the tape. Like, if he was still in a contract, would they also bring in a third veteran, or would they just go
Probably
the draft
not.
pick route?
Yeah, I think they would just go with a young guy. But Rudolph being a free agent, and as I've talked about, I think likely to test the market. I don't think the Steelers are going to be able to re-sign him before free agency day. Like, I'd be very skeptical of that. So at that point, you have to start looking. You have to start making a plan for what you're going to do in free agency.
Now, okay, like Ryan Tannehill, say it's not Ryan Tannehill, but just the fit of Arthur Smith, does that alone increase or decrease in your mind the chances of Mason Rudolph being back just because of the system?
I don't think there's any impact there. I think the system could work for Mason Rudolph. I think he fits it, but it's not like it's tailor-made to him. It's a good offense. Like, it's, if you're a Steelers fan that hasn't watched a lot of the Titans, hasn't watched a lot of Falcons, like, it's, and actually this is a coach that Arthur Smith came up under. It reminds me a lot of Mike Mularkey's Steelers offenses in terms of, yes, it's a lot of running, but there's also a lot of deep shots. There's a lot of play action. And I think that it makes better use of the running in the rest of the offense than we've seen these last couple of years under Canada, right? That's the big difference. Like, if you look at the Titans in 2018, before Arthur Smith took over, they still ran the ball really well. Like, they were already a good running team when he got there. Derrick Henry in 2018 had 1,000 rushing yards, but they didn't score. They were 27th in points. 2019 comes around. Derrick Henry, still very good, has 1,500 yards, a little better, but now all of a sudden they're 10th in points. And then in 2020, they're 4th. Like, he made the offense, the rest of and look, the passing totals aren't great, but as we've talked about on this podcast a lot, the yards don't matter as much as the points. He found a way to turn a rushing attack into a scoring offense. And like, I don't think that's the common way to go about it in the NFL right now, but it is the way that the Steelers have the personnel to do. So and it also ties into Art Rooney's conversation about urgency. If you're hiring an OC that wants to run up-tempo passing game that needs a good quarterback, like you're sort of setting this rebuild back. Like you're starting over with personnel in a number of different ways, right? Like especially quarterback, but maybe other places too. I mean, I don't know that Broderick Jones is a left tackle in that kind of offense, right? He's honestly kind of wasted in that kind of offense because he's a great run blocker. And so like they're not tooled up for that. And I don't get the sense that they had the patience to reset the entire roster to make it fit for a quarterback that might run, or the coordinator that might want to run a more in vogue offensive scheme.
Yeah. Just one tidbit here from our guy, Chris Carter. The 2 years that Smith was the OC were the only 2 years of his career that Derrick Henry has averaged over 5 yards per carry.
There you go.
So I'm interested.
He made
to see.
Derrick Henry better, and he made the offense better around Derrick Henry. There's no question about
Ryan
that.
Tannehill, 55 passing touchdowns in the 2 seasons.
And Ryan Tannehill was awful when he was in Miami before that. Like I know it was a little while ago, but that was like a major national story. It's like, oh my God, look at how dumb the Dolphins were. Look how good Ryan Tannehill could be. Like that was a big deal. And so I think there's talent there. I just think the recent results bring the likelihood of that talent leading to success into question. And I also think there is obviously sort of a ceiling on that kind of offense. I mean, you are not going to go score 50 with the Chiefs if that is what you're doing. You're going to have to play good defense too. Right now, the Steelers are. So that's okay. But, it does limit the way you can go about your business in the future.
Is it fair to say then, you look at the results that he got in Tennessee, and again, like not trying to take away from Ryan Tannehill here or anything, because he certainly maximized what he had there. But while he may not have been developing the quarterback or doesn't have that track record, the offense makes life easier for that position.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think
so imagine if you were getting like not elite level play, but average to above average quarterback play within that system.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I saw somebody say this wasn't quarterback friendly, and I'm like, every quarterback is very happy to hand the ball off every time if the team wins because of it. Like that's quarterback as friendly as they get. I don't have to get hit. I don't have to make any hard decisions. I'm not going to throw any interceptions. Every time I do throw the ball, it's going to be like 2nd and 3. Like, that. Yeah. Quarterbacks love this. Quarterbacks love 2nd and 3. Let me tell you what, like that is their favorite thing is 2nd and 3. So, I mean, it's not that it's not quarterback friendly. It's that he is not a quarterback developer, but the offense itself, what's not to like about running the ball a lot and then taking deep shots with play action like that? Go pull quarterback.
I think play action is the one thing that Steelers fans should be excited for sure.
I bet quarterbacks would rather do that than throw 55 times a game. If you go poll the NFL quarterbacks right now, like what would you rather do? Run the ball really well as a team and take a few play action deep shots, get your 2.5 touchdowns a game on 15 passes, or would you rather throw it 55 times, take 20 quarterback hits, and be the whole reason the offense is ending? I'm telling you, man, the quarterbacks would prefer option A.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. Alan, am I way in over my head here? Is this just me like looking for something? There was talk, right? There was a lot of reports out there. It wasn't just one, that if Mike Vrabel got a head coaching job somewhere, he would take Artie Smith as his offensive coordinator. And there was also, and it wasn't even in the same thing, but like a connecting dots here type thing, that Artie Smith would like to have Mike Munchak be his offensive line coach. Now, is there a world here where Mike Munchak is brought back into the organization, Vrabel, and at this point probably doesn't land a head coaching gig, and he could be brought in as a defensive assistant / assistant head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we just build out this staff in that way?
Sure. I mean,
this is what's been going on in my head since I saw the Artie Smith tweet from Tom Pelissero, the first thing.
I think the idea of having consecutive former head coach on the depth chart does kind of lend itself to that. And I'll tell you the other thing too is like, if this works, it's going to really work because I don't think Arthur Smith is going to get another head coaching opportunity anytime soon. And I don't think that's why the Steelers did this, but it is a benefit where if you hired Zach Robinson and you go have the number 2 offense in the league this year, you are looking for another offensive coordinator the following year. And again, I don't think that's why the Steelers did this, but I do think there is a potential advantage there if it works.
Yeah, probably not. It doesn't look like with just 2 openings left. Bobby Slowick probably not going to get one this cycle, but very good chance at the beginning of this cycle that he was going to be one and done in Houston. So maybe it's 2 and done. But yeah, I mean that would be a scenario like with Zach Robinson as well.
Look, if I'm not saying teams would be upset about that. I mean, look, if you have a guy who does good enough with you to get a promotion, then great, he did good enough with you. But I think it lends itself to, like I said, there's some risk in this. That may be some mitigation of that risk, in that if it works out, you probably get him for a couple of years. And that doesn't have anything to do with, why he's the hire, but it does sort of eliminate a little bit of the risk of the hire. And so, I don't. So somebody asked my opinion of this, and it's like, it's tough, man. It's like it could work, but it's look. Let's put the names out there. Like Kubiak's still on the board. Eric Bieniemy still could be on the board. Darrell Bevell, I don't get that at all. Now, I wrote this at the site today. Like, do they have an idea of what's going to happen with those guys? The whole NFL is within like a quarter mile of my location right now. Like they're all together. So it does not take a lot here to learn what other people are doing. It doesn't take more than one conversation to be like, hey, I just talked to Mickey Loomis, and he said that they have their in-person scheduled with Kubiak tomorrow morning, and they're going to offer him so much money that he cannot possibly leave the building without taking it. Well, okay, then we can just cross Clint Kubiak off because the Steelers can't even talk to him yet. And so, the Ben Johnson staying with Detroit.
Yeah.
That was the guy that you felt like was the most likely to get that Commander's job, and was the one that was probably like the most likely that freed Eric Bieniemy. Now they're going to talk to the defensive coordinator. Well, defensive coordinator is probably going to keep Eric Bieniemy, right? But Ben Johnson wasn't going to. And so is it worth waiting for Bieniemy now? If they don't hire Glenn, like that, their whole head coach search could go back to the drawing board in another 2 weeks. And I don't really know that there was a report, I guess it was Rappaport said in his brief that like other teams wanted Arthur Smith. I don't really know how much of that I've seen. There was that rumor that if Vrabel got a job, he would go with him. He hadn't interviewed for any other job. I don't know that they needed to land him, but if you're talking about guys that check the boxes that Art talked about yesterday, that we opened with, that were important to them, there weren't that many of them. It was really just him and maybe Thomas Brown, but like to a lesser extent. There's not really any. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Smith is the better of those 2 candidates. And so I don't know. I think it leaves a bad taste in the mouth making the hire with better options still out there. And if it turns out that those better options are signed, sealed, and delivered elsewhere, Darrell Bevell, he turned down jobs last year. Maybe he's not taking interviews. I don't know. Maybe that got out here at Mobile, But I think that is where some of the rational critiques of this hire are coming from, and I think that's understandable.
Yeah, I would agree. I know what you're talking about with Rappaport, but like going back to originally when he got fired, like maybe a day or 2 after, Diana Rossini put out that there were 7+ teams.
Oh, that's true. I had forgotten about that report. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think the league thinks Arthur Smith can't coach. Like I'm sure of that. So that's not. Yeah, it's not that crazy. But I think there's a path where this ends up looking really good by the end of the week if we get some news about those other guys. But it also might not. And I'll be honest. I think I'd rather have Clint Kubiak. But we'll see how things go. I do think it can be a good hire.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying. Like, it wasn't my preferred option, but I think depending on how they feel with the rest of the staff, it could work. That's actually the last thing that I want to ask you before we get out of here is like, now that we know Arthur Smith is in place as the OC, what of the remaining staff is your mind changed at all in terms of the guys that are going to stay?
I would say that the one guy that would maybe be more likely to stay would be Frisman Jackson, just because, that's not at all part of Smith's background, wide receiver. And maybe like it's a little less likely that we see like both Pat Meyer and Eddie Faulkner back in those spots, since those are places where Smith has a little bit more expertise. I don't think Sullivan will be back. I think Alfredo Roberts did a fine job and will probably be back too. I thought, Frisman Jackson with his ties to Matt Canada and just I figured that was like a spot that a new OC would want to put his stamp on it, but maybe not in this, specific circumstance.
Right. Okay. Well, we will see sooner rather than later, hopefully. Alan, tell the people where they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on Twitter. You can find me at Veets, which is a bar in Mobile.
So upset. So upset.
Like probably tonight. If you've never been to Mobile, great city. Probably try to do a little video here on the channel, just walking around, because I get the I tweeted a picture today, and someone was like, "I would have guessed you're in New Orleans." I'm like, "Buddy, Mobile was New Orleans before New Orleans was New Orleans. Like this is New Orleans, basically. New Orleans is the isn't that like Oreo was actually the knockoff, and there was another cookie that was an Oreo before Oreo? Pretty sure that's the that's the story there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody will know the answer. But Oreo is a knockoff, and the other cookie is the original. Oreo's just become much more famous. That's Mobile and New Orleans. Mobile is the original. New Orleans is just more famous at it. They celebrate Mardi Gras here like 19 times between now and Mardi Gras.
Yeah, somebody will know the answer to that, and they'll put it in the comments along with telling us why Mason Rudolph is so much better than Kenny Pickett,
and why I hate Mason.
And Pitt alum will definitely be thrown in there as well. Upload that video. Exactly. I respond every time because that's the one that just throws me off the most. I'm like, neither are Pillums, buddy.
Yeah, I went to IUP.
Upload that video because if nobody else will enjoy the video, I know I will enjoy the video. So I need to see the video of the scenery in Mobile.
Videos of the inside of Veets. That is like it's funny is that there's going to be about 900 media members at Veets over the next like 3 nights, and you're not going to see any videos. It's like an undeclared off the record space. Just it's like the neutral zone in Star Trek or something. I don't know. Like we're allowed there, but we can't say we were there.
Right. Yeah, man. Good times to be had there. So I know that you will enjoy it. I'm Zachary Smith, PGH. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here. Hit us in the comments with any questions. Again, if we could just not do the whole quarterback talk thing in the comments on yet another episode, that would be great. Leave us a 5-star review.
If anybody else wants to shave themselves a mustache,
yeah,
I've got some stickers I can send you or something. I don't know. We'll do something. We'll make you famous. I don't know. We've got to reward people with this level of dedication.
I agree. I'll do something too separately, just because I need more people to be in solitary with me. Solidarity. I said solitary instead of solidarity. Solidarity with me. We might go to solitary confinement.
You can't be in solitary with someone. That's not how.
Very true. Leave us a 5-star review if you are listening somewhere else, whether it's Apple, Spotify, wherever that might be. For Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.